Hello, this is Alison from Berroco, and I am here with a how-to video on setting up for working in the round. I have cast on all of my stitches onto this circular needle, and now we're going to set up to join in the round. And the first thing that we need to do is make sure that our stitches aren't twisted. So I am just going to run my fingers along here, stretching out the stitches all the way around the needle. And as I go, I'm just making sure that the cast on edge is all in a line and not twisted around. So I'm just going to keep moving these along. We're ultimately going to be working these stitches first. The first stitches that I cast on are also going to be the first stitches that I knit. And the last stitch that I cast on is going to be the end of the round. So again, I'm just moving this along to make sure our stitches aren't twisted. And now I have to move this around in order to make sure they're not twisted. So now those are all in a row, and I can join for working in the round. I'm going to place a marker that denotes the end of the round. And in this pattern, we have some markers that we have on the needles that are denoting different sections of this square that we're making. So I'm making sure that I have a marker that looks different. It's like a little special marker for the end of the round, so that I know which ones are just marking the sections and when I'm all the way around. So I have my marker there, and now I'm simply going to start knitting these stitches. And here I go. Now, as I go along this round, you might find as you go along, you have to, so first you have to keep, as you go, pushing the stitches up the needle on this side and pushing them on the left side and pushing them down on the right side. You might find that this space where you joined, it might start to get kind of stretched out. Try not to stretch it too much if you can avoid it. Try to keep these close together as much as you can. Don't worry about it too much if you have some space there and you have a little space of yarn there. It's not the end of the world, but try to keep them together as you go. When you get around to the other side, you can move that space back together. And once you have a couple of rounds in there, it won't stretch out anymore. Okay, so now I have reached the stitch just before my beginning of the round marker. As you can see, I didn't stretch it out too much, so that's kind of nice. If it does get stretched out, like if this kind of got, I guess I maybe did that first stitch pretty tightly, so it doesn't really have very much room to stretch. So that's another way that you can avoid getting a really large gap here, is just making sure when you knit that very first stitch of the round that you do it pretty tightly. This is also a good time to double check one more time that we don't have our stitches twisted on the needle. So I'm just going to kind of go all the way around here, making sure that they are lined up correctly. And it looks like we're okay. Here, I'm going to knit this last stitch. If you did find that they are twisted, when you get to this end of row, you can fix that. You just have to kind of go, like if this were, it would mean that this would be over kind of like this. And so you would just need to like untwist it at that point. So there is that way to deal with it if you did accidentally have your stitches twisted on the needle. And one other thing that you can do if you find, especially if you're casting on like a lot of stitches and they're really scrunched on your needle and it makes it very difficult to check and see if your stitches are twisted on the needle, you can also do the first row without joining. Just go back and knit a wrong side row, and then one more row, and then you're on the right side again, and then join. At that point, you'll have a couple of rows at the beginning that aren't in the round, but you can use your tail from your cast on afterwards just to kind of close up that little space. So that's another option if you find it's too hard to avoid twisting your stitches. So I'm going to now just move my beginning of round marker over. And now I'm ready to just go ahead and keep knitting in the round.